uses her. Even though she was a prostitute. I am so grateful that God used people that are not qualified. Understand that God does not call the qualified, but he qualifies those that are called. We got Moses, who was a man that murdered somebody and disobeyed God and did not go into the promised land. Jacob, who was a trickster, a slickster, and told lies pretty often. Samson, who was a player that got played. King David, a man that conspired against his own nation. Things were so nasty until it was nastier than scandal. More cutthroat than empire. David, who would allow incest to go on in his own family and would not even address the issue. But God is the kind of God that'll know your past and still use you. Tell your neighbor, you still qualify for God to use you. I wish I had somebody in here that can look at your past and say it might be nasty, it might be dirty, but I am so grateful that God still uses people just like me. And so he shows us through the life of Rahab that God will still use you. He takes them from the spies as they return to Joshua and tell Joshua what's to happen on Jericho. He takes them across the Jordan River. As they cross the Jordan River, we will find ourselves in Joshua chapter 4. What God does as they cross on the Jordan River, he positions them for their next move. Your last trial always positions you for your next blessing. So as they go past Jordan, God has them in a strategic place, a place called Gilgal, that is positioned right next to the east borders of Jericho. It is here that we find that God would tell Joshua, he said, listen, y'all done crossed the Jordan River. He said, I need you to take 12 men and grab 12 stones from the midst of the Jordan. And he said, I need you to bring those stones, and I need you to keep them with you at the place where you sleep, the place where you encamp, which was a place called Gilgal. God is the kind of God that will allow our Jordan trials to position us for our Jericho, while the testimony of our Jordan trial will give us life. He says, I need you to get some stones, and I don't want you to get the stones from the edge of the Jordan. He said, I need you to get the stones from the midst of the Jordan, the deepest part of the Jordan. That's where I want you to get your stones from. He said, grab stones from the midst of the Jordan, and I need you to carry them with you, so when you see Jericho, you can have something to remind you of what I've already done. I need you to remember the worst place you've ever been in your life. There are some of you here right now, if you think there's been places in your life where you didn't think you were going to make it, you've been in positions in your life where you felt like giving up, but some kind of a way, God still made a way. God said that if I made a way then, I'll make a way now. If I did it for you then, I'll make a way now. He says, I am the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. You ought to tell your neighbor, God has not forgotten about you. You just got to remember what he's already done. His track record is already proven. You ought to tell somebody, God's credit is already good. I told you before, and I'll say it again, God don't need no cosigner, baby. His credit is already good. So he tells Joshua, I need you to get some stones. And I need you to sleep with these stones. I need these stones to be positioned that you can see. And we find out in that Joshua chapter 4 that as God would tell them to bring the stones out, we find that as we enter into Joshua chapter 5, somebody shout, the devil's already scared. We find that by the time we get to Joshua chapter 5, we find that God will first of all tell Joshua, I don't want to miss this very briefly. We find that Joshua first of all will have to tell the people that the stones that they brought up out of Jordan, he says that I need you to take these stones and allow these stones not only to be a testimony, but I need these stones to be there for you to remind your children of what God has done in your life. I can't miss this point. I had to backtrack here because I believe that us as a nation, that we as a people, somebody forgot to pass it to the next generation. What are you saying, young Jones? You can't be afraid to tell your baby that you ain't all that bright, that it was God that brought you out. You can't be afraid to tell your baby the only reason we got a job and we eating good is because God is on our side. Don't you look at your baby and don't never mention the name of God or the name of Jesus. It is our job to pass it down to the next generation. That way that when your baby get of age and your baby get in trouble, your baby will know who to call on. It ain't calling on the streets. It ain't calling on the alcohol. It ain't calling on the weed. But the baby knows how to say, Lord, I ain't been living right, but mama told me about you. Mama told me that you was a way maker. Mama told me that you were a body healer. Mama told me about you. Daddy told me about you. Tell your neighbor, are you telling your children about what God has done in your life, this generation? So we find that Joshua 5 and verse 1, we find that the enemy is afraid. The Bible says that the heart of the enemy melted. If you go back to Joshua chapter 2, you'll find that Rahab tells the two spies the same thing. She said, the men are afraid of you all. They're afraid of the children of God. They're afraid of what you might become. They're afraid of what you might do. I came here to encourage somebody not to live in the spirit of fear. According to 2 Timothy chapter 1, about verse number 7, it says that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. May I submit to you that the devil is more scared of you than you are of him. May I submit to you that the enemy is afraid. He's afraid of your potential. He's afraid of what your life would become if you ever grab hold to Jesus. He's afraid of who you might touch and who you might change and who you might bless if you ever let go and gave God everything. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, the devil is afraid of you. He's afraid of your potential. How do you know it, preacher? That's why he keeps trying to kill your faith and kill your dreams and kill your hopes, because if he can kill you, he can kill the blessing that you ought to become. But I dare you to tell somebody, I ain't gonna let the devil kill me. He can't kill my faith. He can't kill my drive. He can't kill my push. He can't kill my praise. Tell your neighbor, don't let the devil kill it. That's what happened with Daniel. They put Daniel in the lion's den. How in the world that Daniel get in the lion's den? The devil was trying to kill what was on the inside of Daniel. But may I submit to you that the thing that the devil is using to try to kill you, God said, I'm going to use it to promote you. Your stumbling block has just become a stepping stone. High five your neighbor, say, neighbor, the devil meant it for bad, but God will turn that bad and make it into good. He'll take the bad and give you power. He'll take your pain and give you purpose. Somebody shout power in this place. Y'all have your seats here. Joshua. I'm trying to hurry up, y'all. There's so much meat in the text. I can't stay all day. Listen. Joshua, he gets to a place where he shows us he stays hungry. Somebody shout, stay hungry, stay hungry. Stay hungry, stay hungry, stay hungry. You act different when you're hungry. You motivate different when you're hungry. Your attitude shift when you're hungry. Joshua, he comes across the Jordan River with the people of God. But he's so dedicated to this is not all that God has for me. So he says to himself, I got to get down to Jericho. What are you saying, young preacher? That Joshua is not too busy glorifying and celebrating Jordan until he can't get to Jericho. There are some seasons in your life you can get caught up in celebrating yesterday's victory while not preparing for tomorrow's battle. But the devil is a liar. Yesterday is gone. Today is here, and I'm still hungry. Look at your neighbor and say, baby, I'm still hungry. You can't get better if you ain't hungry. You can't go higher if you ain't hungry. Tell your neighbor, I'm looking for the hungry crowd. Is there somebody hungry in here? Tell your neighbor, I'm still hungry. I'm still hungry. God has more for me. I'm so sick and tired. Y'all pray for me here. I ain't ready to preach yet, amen, but I feel good in my sanctified soul. Hit me every now and then leave me alone. But I feel good in my sanctified soul because I am so sick and tired of people talking about what they did yesterday and how it was done yesterday and what you used to do and how faithful you used to be and how much you used to pray. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, stop telling me what you used to do. I think Janet Jackson said it best. She said, baby, what have you done for me lately? I'm looking for the lately crowd. Those that say, no, I wasn't just faithful yesterday, but I'm faithful today. I wasn't a prayer warrior yesterday, but I'm a prayer warrior today. What you used to do. I wish I had somebody married here to tell somebody it ain't about what you used to do, baby. We got to make forever. It ain't about what you used to do. I need to know if you're still in the game. I need to know if you're still committed. I need to know if you're still dedicated. What you used to do. Y'all have your seats here. So he stays hungry. I'm going to slow down right here. Joshua gets to a place. And now God is telling him, the people, I need their relationship to be brought back. He says, before you can take down Jericho, he said, I need the covenant to be renewed. He tells them in chapter 5, he says, Joshua began to get sharp objects and he began to circumcise the children of Israel. Understand that circumcision was a sign that God gave to Abraham as a covenant relationship. It signified that God belonged to me and I belong to God. God is telling Joshua that before you can face Jericho and bring down the walls, your relationship must be intact. Your relationship with Christ must be intact. May I submit to you that when they crossed over the Jordan River, they crossed over and they were not circumcised, which simply means they had the ark of God, they had the presence of God, but they wasn't in a relationship with God, and God did it for them anyway. May I submit to you and I, we can't get caught up in praising over unjust blessings. Understand that God said that there are some walls in your life that the only way they can come down, you can't be a church goer, but the church got to be in you. There are some walls in your life, they'll never come down simply because your name is on a church roll, but you ain't got a relationship with God. Once the church doors are closed, may I submit to you that it's not enough just to say I attend church, but there's somebody here that say I got a relationship with God. There are some walls in your life that you cannot bring down if you don't know God and God don't know you. I ain't talking about reading his name in a book, but I'm talking about your name being written in the Lamb's book of life. That way that when you and I die and we stand face to face with God, he'll say that that's my own. Y'all ain't gonna talk back to me in here. Look at your neighbor and say, do you know him? So he tells them, Joshua, if you want to take down Jericho, I need the relationship to be renewed. I need the reproach to be removed. I need my people to be back in the right standing with me. Now it's going to get ugly if y'all just pray with me. Because I found out that we have people in today's time that don't mind the blessings of God, but they don't want to cut themselves. The problem comes when God don't agree with me. The problem comes when God doesn't agree with my action. The problem comes when I say I want to and God say you should not. The problem comes when God don't co-sign on everything that I want to do. So Joshua tells them, he says, if you're going to take down Jericho, there's some things you got to cut back on. May I submit to you that if you want to bring down walls in your life, there's some folk you got to cut off. I'm going to leave it right here. I don't want to stay here long. Because the truth of the matter is that if you don't cut it off, it'll forever keep you down. Sometimes you can be entangled in relationships and friendships for so long, until now to cut it, you got to cut you. Jesus said it best. He says, if your right eye offends you, he says, pluck it out. He says, if your right hand offends you, he says, cut it off. He says, if your right foot offends you, cut it off. He says, it's better to enter heaven hopping than to go to hell with a full body. Y'all ain't gonna talk back to me in here. What I found out is folk don't want to cut it off. Tell your neighbor, don't be afraid to cut it off. Don't be afraid to separate. Don't be afraid to step out on faith. God got you, baby. You just got to learn how to let it go. You have to learn how to let it go. You have to learn how to let them go. How do you know, young preacher? There's sometimes we can be suffering with spiritual gangrene. Y'all ain't gonna let me preach up in here. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, you got spiritual gangrene in your spirit. Is there something that's affecting your life and affecting your spirit to the point that when you can't serve God the way that you should? God say, baby, if you don't cut it, it's gonna kill you. Anybody know anything about gangrene? The doctor will tell you that when I see it, I got to get rid of it. If I don't cut it, the whole body gonna die. Tell your neighbor, don't you lose your whole soul because you're afraid to cut somebody off. Tell somebody, cut them, cut them, cut them, cut them, cut them, cut them. Don't let it live any longer. You got to cut them. Don't let it stay any longer. You got to cut. Whew. I don't want to preach it, but I feel good right here because sometimes to cut some folk off, sometimes it's painful. Sometimes to cut some folk off, you got to cry yourself to sleep. Sometimes to cut some folk off, you got to change your phone number. Sometimes to cut them off, oh, they gonna talk back to me in here. I don't have enough time. Can't say that. By the time you get into Joshua chapter 5, for the sake of time, the captain of the Lord's army, he shows up and he shows himself to Joshua. And Joshua is such a warrior until he pulls his sword and he's trying to figure out, are you for me or are you against me? But it said that we find out that Joshua just wasn't a talking warrior, but he was about it.
Yes, sir.
It's a good thing that the army of the host of the Lord capped him. Good thing he spoke up earlier. Him and Joshua would have been fighting. So he tells Joshua, wait a minute now, I'm the captain of the host of the Lord's army. And Joshua begins to kneel down. And he tells him, take your shoes off because you're on holy ground. He gives him a recap of what God did to Moses when Moses saw the burning bush.